Hi everyone, welcome back to the Accent Designer. I'm Osama Gazelle, and today's video I'm going to be summarizing and sharing with you guys the most important news and updates that have been announced in the Apple conference earlier this week. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So in this conference, there was four main announcements: iPad, iPad mini, Apple Watch, and of course the megastar of the conference, the new iPhone 13. So I'm gonna start off with the iPad, the new iPad. It comes pretty much with similar design to what we know, same bezels, same Touch ID, but the most interesting thing about it is the new A13 Bionic processor that adds up 20% more speed to the CPU and GPU and even the neural engine. According to the announcement they had in a conference, this new speed makes it 3 times faster than the highest end Chromebook and 6 times faster than the highest end Android tablet. I don't really know or understand what kind of criteria or metrics they have for these measures, but that was pretty much announced in the conference. And the most interesting part to me was pretty much the following set of features. So the new iPad comes with a True Tone feature in order to adjust the screen display based off of the temperature in the room, which in my opinion from a UX and product perspective help the designers and developers a lot to provide more accessible experience. The second thing that stood out to me is the new update they have in the neural engine, because that will boost up the performance of certain features that a lot of people like in iPad, such as quick notes, multitasking controls, and smart widgets. And of course, the center staging feature that allows the camera to track your face or anyone's face in video calls, which comes really in handy. One of the interesting things that happened in a conference, that when they actually announced or confirmed the center staging feature in iPad, they mentioned they actually named it. It's going to be working well with some social media apps like TikTok, which I personally found a little bit unusual. But hey, that's just Apple conference. They do all the weird stuff sometimes, right? The new iPad will be available to purchase starting from next week, and it starts at $329 US dollars, but this time comes with 64 gigs memory. Now moving on to the second update, which in my opinion was much more interesting. This time is iPad mini. So the new iPad mini comes with a very similar approach to what we had in iPad Air and iPad Pro. So you can find the edges are much flatter and the bezels are much smaller, which gives much more medium and real estate for the screen display, and now sits at 8.3 inches. So even though the device itself maintains the same size as the previous generation, but the screen display is slightly bigger thanks to the smaller bezels. Screen in iPad mini comes with liquid retina display technology that supports both True Tone feature as well as 500 nits of brightness. The most important, I would say, radical update that came with the new iPad mini is the processor. It comes with the A15 Bionic processor that comes with iPhone 13, which makes it very capable device. And this new processor gives you 40% faster performance in the CPU and 80% faster performance in the GPU, which is insane for any tablet if you think about it. And once it hits the market, I'm assuming next week, it's going to be priced at $499. So now moving on to Apple Watches. So first and foremost, let's just forget about all the leaks that came out recently, because a lot of people anticipated it's going to look more or less like the new approach conducted in iPhone 12, like having these edges flushed out into the screen. But that's absolutely incorrect, because it's more or less the same design we know about Apple Watches, but the screen display was revolutionary in my opinion. I really liked how they designed it. So they reduced the bezels by 40% or the edges by 40%, and that gave room to 20% increase in the surface, which was a really nice tweak and like a way to fine-tune the watch itself, because now there's just much better room to produce larger UI elements, more readable and more accessible. One of the results of this update is actually being able to use the quick path typing on a keyboard in Apple Watch, which in my opinion was very challenging to even imagine, because the screen size itself is pretty small, so it's like kind of challenging to add more dynamic gestures. So down to the good stuff. The new Apple Watch comes with pretty much the same battery. I'm assuming it's about 18 hours of battery life or something like that. But the good thing is it's actually 30% faster to charge. So you can actually go from 0 to 80% in 44 minutes. So the new Apple Watch comes in 3 different collections. You have the aluminum watches that come in 5 colors, and titanium watches that come in 2 colors, and finally the stainless steel watches that come in 3 different color variations. And of course, no shortage of a large band collection to select from. And they also introduced this new crack and dust resistant kind of surface, which in my opinion is very nifty addition to the water resistance feature they already have. One of the most interesting things worth looking at in the new Apple Watches in Fitness Plus is the new meditation and Pilates programs they added. And as far as they mentioned, it's going to be updated weekly. So they're going to be dropping new audio episodes every single week for meditation and for people to practice more Pilates. The new Apple Watch will be available to purchase this fall, and I guess it starts at $399. And now moving on to the final and most important part of this conference, iPhone 13. So first of all, there is no fundamental difference when it comes to the overall design of the new iPhone 13 in comparison to iPhone 12, for example. But if you look at the cameras in the back, you will notice that they are placed diagonally, which according to how they announced it or how they explained it, provides a better and larger field of view, which helps or assists the built-in technology to capture more details, more light, and produces crisper and overall better images. The new iPhone 13 comes in 5 different colors. You have the pink, you have the starlight, the blue, midnight black, and the red. And finally, a smaller notch. This is absolutely one of the things that bother me a lot as an iPhone user. To be completely honest with you guys, I hated the notch a lot. I know the reasons behind it, like the cameras and the sensor, proximity sensors and all that, but I'm 100% certain that Apple can come up with new ways to incorporate the same technology and the same complexity without using the notch or without having the notch. And I guess somebody a couple days ago published or shared this. I don't know if it's a fake leak for iPhone 14, which is supposed to be available next year, not anytime soon. And it has no notch at all, pretty much similar to some other Android devices. And also, as far as they mentioned, they changed the engineering architecture a lot inside the device itself. But before getting there, let's just talk about the screen first. The screen is liquid retina display with 28% more brightness, supports Dolby Vision, HLG, so on and so forth. Now moving on to the processor. I was honestly expecting something like M1 in the new iPhone, but they ended up having the A15 Bionic. So the processor consists of 15 billion transistors with 6 cores in the CPU, 2 for high performance and 4 for like regular day-to-day performance. The GPU comes with 4 cores and 16 cores for the neural engine. This results in 30% faster graphics. So it's actually pretty awesome, guys. Like for a gamer, I'm a gamer, and I don't know about you if you're interested in video gaming, but imagine playing something like Call of Duty on your device, your iPhone device. It's pretty cool for at a very close rate to what you may have on your PC or gaming console. That's actually pretty cool. And that's because the new processor is capable of 15.8 trillion operations per second, which is insane. Now upgrade number 2 in the new iPhone 13, cameras. Pretty much the same cameras in comparison to the last generation, 12 megapixels, but it's actually wider and capture more light, and that's due to the new aperture rate 1.6. So we're almost talking about 40% increase in light gathering. The new ultra-wide camera comes with 12 megapixels, similar to the regular camera, but it actually captures more light because the new aperture rate is 2.4. One of the things that really drew my attention was the new sensor shift technology they produced in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. They still have it here in the iPhone 13, which helps you capture more stable pictures. Another update that I really liked, especially in the video shooting, is the crack focus feature. For those who are interested in video editing and shooting, when you shift or transition the focus of your camera from one view or one scene to another, like this one over here, it becomes very hectic and a little bit troublesome job if the camera wasn't set up in the right way. So it adds a lot of burden when it comes to editing and how to manually switch the focus using Adobe Premiere Pro or After Effects or Final Cut. Here in the new iPhone 13, the phone automatically calculates the pixels and switches the focal point in order to transition the focus of your camera on its own without even pressing any buttons, which in my opinion is brilliant and adds just another or an extra layer of depth to how you're shooting videos on your iPhone. And eventually the battery. So the new battery in the iPhone mini, in the iPhone 13 mini, it gives you 1.5 more hours of usage and 2.5 more hours of usage in the iPhone 12. I don't really know how does that translate into everyone's usage, but to me 1.5 hours and 2.5 hours, that's pretty significant. And eventually the price. The iPhone 13 mini will be available at $699 US dollars, and the iPhone 13 will be available at $799 US dollars. Now moving on to iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. So first update, the camera in the back of your phone. It's significantly bigger and honestly thicker, and I don't know, but I'm assuming that's due to the new processor technology that goes into it, which I wouldn't really mind, but for some people, if they're trying to nitpick on the new design, I guess that would be one of the things or one of the downfalls for just like a select group of users, of course. And now moving on to the processor, it's A15 Bionic, and if you may notice here, in comparison to the iPhone 13 and iPhone 13 mini, it comes with, the GPU comes with 5 cores as opposed to only 4 cores, similar to what we have in the smaller devices. So as opposed to only having 13% faster performance when playing video games, here in iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, you actually get 50% faster performance, which is honestly insane. If you were to ask me in comparison to any other device, that's probably the strongest performance when it comes to operating video games on any phone device. And now moving on to like one of the most, I would say, if not the most interesting thing to me that I've been waiting for, is the screen refresh rate. In iPhone 12 Pro and Pro Max, my device is actually Pro Max, and the peak is 60 megahertz, which is a little bit weird. I expect it from Apple, especially with the Pro Max, with a bigger screen and more technology inside the device. I expected a higher refresh rate just to even compete against other devices. And finally, they made it in a 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. Now it goes up to 120 megahertz. And keep in mind that this one is adaptive refresh rate, so it starts from 10 megahertz, support like small, light, quick tasks, up to 120 megahertz to operate more complex tasks like video gaming. So unlike the 13 and 13 mini, here the wide camera starts at 1.5 aperture rate and offers up to 2 times improvement in low light mode. Of course, since we're talking about cameras in iPhone, we can't forget talking about video. So now, one of the newest updates in the new iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, that you can shoot macro mode in slow motion. That's really insane. Like one of the best ways to get those nice fine-tuned cinematic cuts and scenes. So having all this automatically computed in your device without having to manually adjust any settings or properties, that's pretty cool. And now moving on to the battery. So after watching all these features, one of the things that people may expect is the battery will have lower or shorter lifespan, but it's actually the opposite. So now in the iPhone 13 Pro, you get 1.5 hours more than the 12 Pro, and the 13 Pro Max gives you 2.5 more hours in comparison to the 12 Pro Max. And now finally the price. So the new iPhone 13 Pro will be available at $999 US dollars, and the Pro Max will be available at $1,099. And one last thing, the pre-order on all the new iPhone devices will start on the 17th, this Friday, and it will be available to collect on the 24th. Thank you guys so much for watching. That was pretty much everything I wanted to share with you about the Apple conference. I thought it's pretty cool, and it goes without saying, Apple does a pretty good job when it comes to like shooting grand drone shots and scenes, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I really like it. I like to watch it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it useful and informative. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you next time.